But let's just get right into it because that's all anybody could talk about. It's all the media could talk about. You had 28 million people tune into NBC to watch it. Tom Brady made his return to Foxborough, and the Patriots damn near won. I was sitting right almost on the goal line, and I watched Nick Folk's kick hit that upright, and the air went out of that place. But what a phenomenal experience. It was raining the entire time. It wasn't super cold, but it was much colder than maybe a lot of Tampa Bay players are used to playing in. But somehow, some way, didn't look pretty, but Tom Brady and the Buccaneers were able to get it done against the New England Patriots. You know, Robert, you were talking about that spread and Bill Belichick. What were your takeaways from this game?
So, yeah, I mean, I thought I had picked Belichick to cover. Didn't pick him to win, but picked him because they were getting a full touchdown, depending on where and when you got it. And that Tampa Bay would score less than 28 points on the team total. So both of those picks cashed, which was fun. Belichick is just very tough in this kind of situation. He's one of those, especially coming off a loss. If all you did for your entire NFL betting career was bet on Belichick, you would have made money almost every single season. He is one of the only coaches that has ever been true of in any sport. Extraordinary record. So that's why gamblers in Vegas have huge respect for the guy. And the fact that he covered as an underdog again, coming off a loss, no big shock to some of us, but still impressive because this was a New England team that had not looked great with a young quarterback trying to break in. Who looked solid. Jones, put in the effort that he needed to, but mostly it was the defense keeping Brady in check. And much like the defenses against Peyton Manning or other great quarterbacks, a really smart defense doesn't focus on great quarterbacks. It focuses on the offensive line and the running backs and the receivers, because if you confuse them, your quarterback is hamstrung anyway. And that's really what Belichick did. It wasn't so much did anything to Brady particularly. It was to everybody else, making their life difficult just enough. And you saw it at the end. The key spread covering event to a large degree was that last defensive play where Antonio Brown was just outside of its reach. And how does that happen? Belichick risks taking a timeout just to make sure he has one of his better defensive backs in for that precise play, for that precise possibility. So I thought it was a fun game, old school game, respect on both sides. There's still a lot of work to do in New England. I mean, they're tracking even further behind Buffalo, given how Buffalo beat the living daylights out of the poor Houston Texans, who did not play so well in the rain up there in that part of New England. That was ugly. But yeah, I thought Tampa is who we thought they were, and Belichick is still who we thought he was.
Yeah, I think a lot of mutual respect from both sides in this game. And the fact that Mac Jones was able to do what he did was impressive. Robert brought it up. It's something I noticed when I was at the game, Uche, what New England was doing when it came to their rushing schemes, right? When they were trying to attack that offensive line, trying to get to Brady. You've seen it before. It's everybody faking what they're doing. They're rushing up right before the snap. They might even take one or two steps towards a line, then bail out into coverage. What was your, when you watched that game, what did you see?
So this is something that New England has done for years when they're playing against, any team. They have a package that we call the Amoeba package. Amoeba being, it was literally a package where they maybe have defensive linemen, maybe don't. There were literally film that we would watch where there would be Rob Ninkovich was the only defensive lineman and everyone else is linebackers and defensive backs. So you have to figure out, and this is where you confuse the offensive line. If they haven't studied film long enough to find a pattern, you have to figure out who are the D linemen, because it doesn't matter if they're actually defensive linemen. You have to declare 4 linemen, whether they're all linebackers or half linebackers, half DBs, because what's generally going to happen is for an offensive line that's not ready for something like that, they may only declare 2 of the guys, one on the guys on the edges as rushers, but they don't know who else to block on the interior. Yeah. So they'll start getting mixed blitzes from the interior, and guys will be overthinking it. 2 guys will block 1 guy, 2 guys will come free. 2 guys will block 2 guys. The 3rd guy will loop around and come free. So it's a way to confuse the typical optics of what an O-line looks for and who they're going to block. And they ran, a number of different blitzes like that. And that's what That's one of the things that Belichick is known for being a genius for, is that he's able to come up with unconventional ways to actually like confuse, your most veteran linemen, your most veteran offensive players into thinking that they're seeing something that they're not. And, it really played well for him. I think in this respect, Tampa Bay won the battle, but I think that there's a lot to be said about New England maybe winning the war, because we saw on the other side, on their offense, Mac Jones, who played a pretty good game. He looked like a Brady in the making to a certain extent, a pupil for the next generation for the New England Patriots. So, I think that there was a lot that they kind of wanted to find in his character, in how he plays in that game, because it was going to be a high pressure game, even though this game really means nothing in the grand scheme of things. It's literally an exhibition for the most part.
What was Ryan? What were the fans like?
It was interesting. So I went in. Me and Jeremy actually both had Tampa Bay Brady jerseys, just kind of knowing we're going into that kind of atmosphere. I have a Patriots Brady jersey here, but we went with the Tampa one, and we only had two people like give a shit for it. One was a group of like 12-year-old kids who we cussed out, and then another, just some random dude that walked by, said jersey sucks. Right? Like that was it. Everybody else was just like they were happy to see Tom. And when he came out for warm-ups, literally the crowd cheering, a Brady chant started going. And then once the game started, then it was a normal game. People like, Brady, that guy, get him out of here. Get him out of here. He should never have left us. See what happens like when they're winning everything. So it was a great atmosphere. It really was. And I think New England fans left feeling good about, Mac Jones. Now, I will say he got away with some stuff. He made a couple.
It's New England, dude. It's fucking New England.
No, so that's not what I mean. I mean that he got away with a couple bad decisions that could have looked really bad.
Okay,
if a ball had just bounced another way or something.
If it gets tipped up,
And then that pass interference that got called to get them to like the 40 was literally a joke.
That's what I was talking about. Like that's not a New England's thing.
Yeah, that was an absolute joke. But at the end of the day, a game, it wasn't the prettiest game, but it was entertaining from beginning to end. And I think everybody got what they wanted, a close game. I think everybody would really have wanted to see that kick go in and see Tom Brady get the ball with a minute left. That would have just
been some vintage Tom Brady. That would have been a true, like, okay, it is literally New England's strategy and genius versus Tampa's strategy and genius for this last drive.
Yeah, exactly. But now that's over. So now they had their little meeting. After they hugged at midfield, Belichick actually came in the locker room and talked to Brady after the game for about 20 minutes or so. No one's quite sure what, but so interesting. Seems like those guys definitely, any animosity that was there, I think it probably got worked out with that. Sure, Belichick comes out of this game feeling a lot better about how people perceive what's going on in New England. Because I think a lot of people it was just all Tom Brady. It was just all Tom Brady. Belichick had nothing to do with it. That ain't the fucking case. We all know that. Yeah. And now we saw that on the field. But I
agree. I think that's true. Like there's definitely a lot of people did have that kind of assumption. I know I kind of had that assumption because of just how quickly Brady went to Tampa and got a championship. And, without really considering all of the reasons why New England on the other end, like collapsed under their own weight, with a lot of players opting out and just, not really having a quarterback because Cam Newton is not the same guy because of that shoulder surgery. He can't even lift his arm up that high. But I do think that this did redeem a lot of those assumptions from last season, about what that dynasty in that period of time meant for Brady and Belichick. So that's good for Belichick.